Hey guys. All right, well, that was the mask used by a Midnight Stag fan of several years ago, and it's pretty funny. It's rChewbacca, and he was participating in the Lather games, and Midnight Stag was the soap he was going to use that day, and he actually had his wife put on the mask and gallivant through the forest, and that video was part of his write-up for that day. And you know, this is you guys know from me talking about the Lather games how guys go to all kinds of lengths to be creative and have fun with shaving and that sort of thing. So I decided to bring out the stag mask because I won this. He auctioned off his set of Midnight Stag that he used that time, and I won it and used it. I think I finished off this tub last year, but you probably recognize it if you've been watching me with this series. And so I decided to bring out the mask that he sent along with the soap and the splash and the cologne. Honestly, this could very well be the same cologne, since those last a good long time. So let's get into the shave for real. As usual, we are using the Semogue Owners Club Taj handle from Semogue. Picking up the wrong soap tub. This one's empty. Yesterday and the last couple days we've done slurry lathers. Yesterday was a kind of a thicker slurry lather where we loaded more. Let's just do a normal bowl lather today and just kind of change it up a little bit. The uses on the blade looks like 581 now. Might be today's count. And I'll show you the blade before I get my hands wet. Timeless open comb, stainless steel 68 gap razor. And there's the little Nacet blade and its markings and all that stuff. I told you guys maybe a shave or two ago that I was experiencing a little tenderness that I don't usually get with this blade, and then yesterday everything was fine. So maybe it took the blade a couple of days to kind of snap back into readiness. The splash, and I already showed you the cologne. Those are Midnight Stag as well today, and I believe that is I think I showed you this is the more modern top of the soap. I'll be using this 3D printed bowl by Roger Quintero. Get my face wet. And we learned with the slurry lather method that 30 seconds approximately when loaded with a kind of a wet brush is pretty good in terms of that particular method. So why don't we try 30 seconds again today, just for grins, for the bowl lather. So it's got a lot of water in there. Why don't we just try the lot of water method. $20, $30, something like that. Sometimes it's really odd to count as you're swirling. I seem to only be able to count very well when I'm on that return stroke right around here on the tub. It's kind of odd. Well, I mean, it's kind of fast, you know. All right, so we have a good bit of wetness going on already. So that's going to allow us to not have to add as much water later on in the process. Okay, after just a few swirls, we have a very frothy early part of the lather. And this is one of those soaps. It's kind of the old school formulation. A lot of the newer guys don't use this kind of high coconut oil kind of chemistry anymore. They are bringing in other new things good for your skin. And I'm glad. I don't really like the coconut oil soaps as much. It's a little harder to find that that line between really wet so that it's super slick versus keeping it lightly creamy. And see already, and this is what the coconut oil soaps offer and why they were very popular for a long time. They kind of quickly come together for a lather. And with my slurry lather method, I think that method takes really good advantage of this style of soap. And so that's really why I got into the slurry lather, because I tried it with this one and it was so different. The kind of performance I got was so different. It was just slicker, much slicker than I ever got with kind of a bowl lather method like this. To kind of calm this lather down just a little bit, let's get in some water and then maybe it won't be quite so. Obviously, this method, number one, I probably picked up a little bit more soap for those 30 swirls than I did with previous days, since the soap's getting wetter as we go. But as you can see, the bowl lathering is just a very conservative way to work. If you can only afford a few soaps, then I recommend you try bowl lathering. And if you want your soaps to really go further, then bowl lathering is a great way to go, because there's just nothing wasted. You get to have the bowl hold on to your soap, hold on to your lather, while you put a working amount on your face. Face latherers have to deal with that concentrate just going kind of right down the drain. So much of it. Did not need to load for this long, but it was just kind of an experiment, and in a way good to show you. So that concentrate that I have on the brush tips when I'm doing a slurry lather right away, if I were to turn that into a full-fledged lather, it would look like this, and it would be this much. With this base, and most of the other bases kind of like it, the coconut oil bases, you don't want to take it, I don't want to take it as far as I usually do. You don't actually want to keep it going until it looks in the bowl like you want it to look on your face, because then it will actually be too wet and it won't be as, it kind of breaks. The emulsion breaks, and you just don't have that slickness. You've got a lot of water, but the soap is not attached to as much of the water as it should be. I'm trying to give words to try to explain what I think is happening, but the lather's just not as slick as it is. So I have to run this a little drier than I usually might like to. And I bet I'm at a stopping point now. Let's lift it up. You can see how it behaves, still kind of stiff. If I had Mammoth or Barrister and Man or something, I would definitely push this further. It's still got plenty of structure to itself. It holds itself up. But that's just the nature of this type of soap. And why this particular base is not one of my favorites, as well as most of the other ones like it with the coconut oil. Am I right? Yeah, you've got the ingredients down here. Potassium stearate, potassium taloate, potassium cocoate. I believe that third ingredient right there is that, I think that's the coconut oil. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Splash my face a little bit more. And yeah, I've got enough lather for many, many passes. If you're ever applying lather and you if you have a goatee or some other hair thing on your face and the lather, kind of a thick lather, builds up around the border, then that's an indication that you could probably add more water if you want to. Get a little slicker. And I'm talking about more than just this. But this is a good sign. Well, and unless it's this kind of base, which needs to stay a little on the thicker side. But as you work the brush, notice I do kind of a scrubbing motion, but you can do whatever kind of motion is happy for you. This is the painting type motion, just back and forth like this. Some guys only do the painting. Some brush manufacturers only tell you to do the painting type strokes. But I just don't think that's, I like to feel that, especially with badgers and super soft boars that have had a lot of break-in. I like to feel that kind of smush on my face. The knot itself is just, that's part of the fun. All right, so that's a good amount of lather. And who knows, the slurry lather is super slick, and it's kind of a high performance slick. This adds more creaminess to it, kind of luxury. I'm curious if the blade is going to like a creamier lather. Seems to like it pretty well. Either the same or maybe a little better than the slurry type. Splash of water. You can do full rinses between passes if you want. Nothing wrong with it. I used to do that, especially in the summer, or also if you really like the scent you're using and you want it to envelop around you more, having your face down in the sink, kind of splashing up water, because you're rinsing stuff off, it actually does give you a nice extra boost of the scent. So yeah, we've just got a ton of lather. So much. Having to turn my head to the side because the mirror that I have is on this side of the phone and also on this side, as you can imagine, and I have to kind of look in different parts around the phone to see what I'm doing. And that angle I was at just a second ago made me think of the J-hook technique in what is it, Neo Fat Boy? Is that his? Geo Fat Boy? Neo Fat Boy? I can't remember. Something like that. I started off in shaving and I did watch some of his videos. But they got to be so much where he was just kind of selling his products for most of the time. That I quit watching him, but he did teach some good things, some not great things. Since he was trying to sell his products, he would advocate the use of things that were unnecessary, like making people think that they needed to buy alum and they needed to use alum after every shave, and that's just not true. So when somebody's trying to sell you products, you don't really know where their credibility is in terms of their recommendations. think he's got a tougher skin than me, because he would, the way he would shave and the different razors he liked and that sort of thing were a lot more aggressive than I can handle comfortably. But he did have a video about the J-hook, and that was something that I was looking at, because for years in the beginning, this little, right next to my Adam's apple on my neck there, was such a tough place to shave properly. And in the end, it just, I think maybe I found the kind of razors that I like better, but also just technique. It's just technique, not pressing too hard. You know, right here is the spot. Coming at it from the right angle. You know, those are all the secrets. Even there are different methods where you crunch up your neck like this to try to firm up that area, you know, and that can help you. But the J-hook was one where you take the razor and you put it where you want, and then you do this little twist. And I think what it does is it turns the blade here, and it makes it almost do a slanted slice instead of a straight perpendicular kind of cut. And it's very tricky. Did I get everything? Yeah. And it's tricky because if you twist your wrist the wrong way, you could definitely make the blade move sideways across your skin. See, if you don't think of the right pivot place on your razor, see how the razor could really be moving the blade across my skin in the wrong way, and that could definitely end up with a cut. Can't remember if I ever cut myself trying that, but I didn't try it too many times. For some reason, I was just reminded of that technique, because we all have, most of us have hair patterns that somewhere on your face there's a struggle, you know, a trouble spot, a tricky area. So we all look for ways to try to work that. And I think for most people it's got to be on your neck, right? This lather, because it's not quite as wet as a normal slurry, it is one where I would be careful about reshaving areas that you've already gone over. You know, check them with your finger to make sure they're still slick, plenty slick. And especially if you have tons of lather in your bowl like I do right now, just throw on some extra lather just to make sure you don't give yourself any irritation. All right, I think that's like 4 passes. I think we're good. And I've easily got enough lather in here for five more passes. I mean, look how much structure that has. It doesn't have as much water in it, and so that length of suds there was able to hold on for as long as it did. With like Mammoth, Declaration Grooming, Barrister and Man, Summer Break, any of those guys that are more modern now that have better bases in terms of slickness, they are going to have, you'll be able to get more creamy. And indeed, if you look at the walls, I don't know if you could see it, but there's tiny little bubbles. And so it's just not a creamy lather. At its essence, it almost gives you the impression that it's a creamy lather. And it does do the job, you know. If I had chiseled face only to use for the rest of my life, I'd still be pretty happy. I'd miss that that just luxurious creamy lather that's so easy to find, like the other makers I've mentioned. But I love their scents. They've got so many good scents to choose from that I'd be a happy camper, especially with Midnight Stag in the mix. I'd still be happy. All right, I'm going to get a good rinse. I'm going to clean my brush and be back. Oh, how much water did we end up adding? That was a pretty wet brush to start out with, so we've got to keep that in mind. About 21 milliliters of water was added to that. And this is what the brush looks like after hairdryer treatment. Just a couple minutes of that. Being careful with it too, not to be too hot. Let's do the splash. I think it was ivermectin that was mentioning in the comments about Daily Driver, because I mentioned the other day that I enjoyed using, or that I may try to use the with this blade here, instead of the open comb base plate of the Timeless, use the solid bar or the scalloped, because those are my really good daily drivers. They're more mild. I don't think they're going to work well, but it's so interesting that that there would be such a difference. And he talked about a daily driver, you know, the search for the perfect daily driver, meaning a razor that you can just consistently shave with every day for about as good a shave as you can get. And yeah, the Timeless 68 gap, the solid bar and the scalloped bar, both to me perform the same. And so I would choose based on the looks, whatever look you were trying to achieve. If you like the scalloped top look, then get the scalloped bar, because then that'll match. But sometimes I like the solid look, and so I bought both over the years. And yeah, that's just a terrific for me. The 68 gap, that's a great daily driver. Competition might be the Timeless. The Carve Christopher Bradley. I can just use A, B, or C. And the open combs are great too. As a daily driver, it may have an advantage over the Timeless in the weight category. I don't think it's going to be quite as heavy as the Timeless razors. If I only had the Timeless and I couldn't compare it with lighter razors, I probably wouldn't ever notice. I would never think about it. You know, they're just great. Charcoal Goods did an everyday razor, I think is a really good one. Great clamping on the blade, and I could just use that all the time as well. The Fatipes, the solid bar or the open comb, for me are everyday razors. And all just really good gripping. The short comb of the vintage Gillette New razor is another one that grips really well for an older razor, and I could easily use that one all the time. It's a really neat one with the way it feels, contrary to the long comb version, which doesn't have as good of support close to the edge. So those, of course, those are some that pop up in my head immediately. The Game Changer from Razor Rock stainless steel is a really good one. It doesn't have as much character to me, and so I'd probably pick the Timeless or the Carve over it, but I always recommend it because it just works so well, and it is super comfy, holds the blade well, it's well made, and it's inexpensive for a stainless steel razor, so I definitely recommend it to people. It's handled like the Timeless. It's compatible with all the different aftermarket handles out there. So I think those are great daily drivers as well. Maybe after August is done here, I might do a search for the best daily driver out there in my estimation. It'd be fun. Just have a little project. All right, guys. I've got the splash applied. Let us do the cologne. And I believe we've covered everything. got everything rinsed out. So 30 seconds, 30 swirls of loading. Usually I do about 3 swirls a second. I timed it one time. And so that's going to be, 10 seconds of loading. And that is way too much right now for this soap being kind of wet. That is too much. I bet I could do 15 swirls instead and do a bowl lather there. But with this base, the slurry lather seems to just be a more enjoyable experience for time's sake, but also just that level of slickness. This base just works with it. And the difference between the kind of slickness I enjoy versus this kind of bowl lather versus the slurry, with this soap, it's just very pronounced difference. And that's why I started studying the slurry method. I was like, are other soaps going to be as noticeable? And most of them aren't. Most of them you do just as well. But I think maybe with these coconut oil soaps, perhaps, maybe it makes a big difference. But anyway, thanks so much for joining me. This is Austere August, and we are just plodding away with this blade. It just doesn't show signs of stopping. My friend Greg mentioned that it may very well go on for a really long time because it's gotten down to where the edginess is off of it, and you've got some kind of I can still cut myself if I push my finger over the edge. It's still razor sharp, but it's just I think the edge has gotten to a point where it's going to be really hard to slow it down because the edginess, I think I described it to you before, the edginess, the apex is just not as acute as it used to be. And so the more something is dull, the harder it is to make it duller. I think it's kind of the principle, and dull being a relative term here, right? Well, that's it. Take care now. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.